The kick out pull is the pull that you're probably most used to with any offense really. A lot of offenses you guys are probably already doing some sort of a pull, a kick out pull. It's part of what you do. The first time that I ever went out for football, it was sixth grade, and I thought I was gonna be a quarterback like everybody else thinks, and they kind of gradually moved me to like a running back, and then to a tight end, and then finally to guard. And I was like the smallest kid down there, but I wasn't very athletic, so it made sense. And the only play that I remember, I know we ran a few different things, but the only play that I remember was called 21 trap. And the two was the fullback, and the one was the left side A gap, I guess. And it was a trap play. And so I don't know why, that's the only thing that sticks in my mind. I guess maybe we ran it a lot. But the trap was one of the first football plays that I ever learned. It's just an inside trap play. And basically what you're trying to do is pull and kick the first guy. Our rule is head up to outside of the guard. We also use a kick out pull on our counter play where our guard is going to pull and kick out the end man. So we use this kick out pull in a couple different places. In fact, we use the counter more than the trap. But it's really basic. It's the one that you're probably most used to. So our footwork, first of all, we're going to gain ground first step just like everything else that we do. In our footwork, we've got our balance stance, and we've got to be able to step and gain ground. Now, it's not a flat step. One of the things that a lot of people teach is a flat step with their pull step. I don't want it to be a flat step because you notice we're going to pull up into the line. And really the path that we should be on with this is up into the line. It's not flat down the line because where we want to aim for, our aiming point is going to be the upfield shoulder of the guy. So it's actually going to be this shoulder where if he comes in and tries to bend like he's supposed to, we're going to make sure that we attack the upfield shoulder on him rather than the back shoulder, because what the defender is trying to do is a wrong arm technique. Most teams are working a wrong arm technique now. And the reason is that if we're pulling to trap this guy, we want to get the shoulder because as he comes across and bends down the line of scrimmage, what he wants to do is take his outside shoulder and attack our puller. And if he does that, if we contact the wrong shoulder, it's going to hit him and turn his body right around our guard. So if we attack this shoulder on him, we're pulling to kick him out, and he's coming down. If he gets underneath our pull, he's going to turn himself right into the hole. That's the wrong shoulder or wrong arm technique that defensive coaches are teaching. So what we want to do with it is we want to make sure that we contact the upfield shoulder so that we turn him away from the hole and the back is able to get by him. As long as we do that, we're going to have a good kick out pull. We don't teach too much technique as far as the actual end block because really this guy usually doesn't see it coming and you just really hammer him. But just like anything else, when we teach the technique, you're coming down the line. So what we want to do, our first step is going to be up into the line. So our first step is going to be up into the line some where we're going to get this open and pull direction so that we're going to be able to kick out the blocker on his upfield shoulder. So first step is going to gain ground. It's almost flat, but it's not quite. So we're going to still be gaining ground to pull up into the line where I tell them if the center didn't come off the ball, I tell the guards, if the center didn't come off the ball, you would run into his butt. What we want to do is as the center comes off the ball and we're pulling, we want to scrape paint with that center's butt, come very tight off the center. And then as these guys are going down on their blocks, we want to come very tight off of them so we can get up the field with our pull and pull up into the line of scrimmage. When we pull, we know that this guy, if he's good, is going to bend down the line of scrimmage. That's what tackles and ends are taught to do on the defensive line, especially in even fronts, or if he's a slanter in an odd front. If he's not very good, then he may come up the field. A lot of coaches will teach that if he comes up the field, don't mess with him. But I tend not to teach that. Some guys naturally do it. Some guys naturally understand it, and they know that guy was just out of the play, and they pass him up. But the problem is I don't want my guy pulling and doing a decision-making process. So as we pull, we make our first step, and some guys like to really emphasize throwing the elbow to get the body around. I'm not as concerned about throwing the elbow. It's nice. It works. If guys are really having trouble getting there, I will teach them to throw the elbow. It may be a good thing with younger guys to get their body around. I'll mention throwing the elbow, but it's not a major teaching point for me with the elbow. I want to make sure the feet are right. So we want to get that foot stepping, gaining ground, because what you'll see is you'll see guys who pivot. They just pivot the foot. They just, instead of stepping, they'll just pivot their foot, maybe on their heel, but a lot of times on their toe to where they're actually losing ground. So they'll just pivot their feet and turn to run. You'll have other guys who will actually drop, step back to turn themselves, and that's what I worry. If you throw the elbow rather than focusing on the foot, then that's going to open your foot up. So you're actually going to end up stepping this way and losing ground. We want to step out and gain ground. So the big focus is first step, gain ground. First step, gain ground, get going in the direction that we're headed. And that's the most important thing. Gain ground, not only getting towards the pull, towards the kick out, but also getting up into the line a little bit with your first step to gain ground. So that's why we don't focus as much on the elbow. But as we come with our pull step, we open, we get our eyes to the guy that we're kicking out, and he's, you know, the end man or the tackle, whoever it is, whatever play that we're running. If it's a longer pull, we're going to talk about, you know, we do our speed trainings. We talk about a sprint down the line of scrimmage. I don't worry about them staying low. I want them to be fast. It's a sprint down the line of scrimmage, and then as we get to that guy, our aiming point, remember, is that upfield shoulder. So if I'm coming to kick him out, this is my defender, I'm coming to kick him out, my aiming point is going to stay here. So as he comes down, I'm going to get him and make sure to take him out of the hole so that he can't wrong arm me. But my aiming point there, as I get to it, I want to be coming down the line, and then we're going to load and strike in our last two steps. So as we're pulling to kick out, we get there, and then we load and strike to get up underneath the guy with our strike. It's not as important. This is the thing. It's just not as important that we lock onto this guy. You know, we don't have to load and strike and you know, drive him out. It's helpful. It's certainly helpful to widen the hole, to give the back some time. But really, the most important thing is the first couple steps and the aiming point that we're getting to on this guy, that we don't pull too deep. If you pull flat and that guy's good, he's going to get up into the line. If I talked about, and I kind of got off track of it, the guy driving up the field, I don't want to be going through this decision-making process. If the guy runs up the field, a lot of times I'll tell him to go ahead and get him. You guys probably see a lot of what we see. We see a lot of teams that put 4 eligible numbers on the defensive line. What I mean by that is they're not the guard, you know, if we're talking two-way players, it's not the guard and the tackle that are playing both ways. It's the backup running back, it's a tight end, it's, you know, it's a receiver, a quarterback. We see quarterbacks play nose guard. It's fat. We see speed up front. We see a lot of speed on the defensive line where they're wearing number 1, 3, 7, and 32 rather than wearing 56, 72, and 91. You know, they're not wearing, they're wearing eligible numbers. On offense, they're playing skill positions. We see a lot of that. So what I've found is that these guys can, in fact, you know, what we used to teach, well, you know, with our counterplay, what we used to teach is if this end goes up the field, he's not going to be able to make the play. So when you pull, just pass him up and go up and go find somebody else. Well, these ends now are running 4.6s, okay? They're able to actually come in there, and if there's any problem in the backfield, they can go and make that play. And, you know, we, on our counterplay, we've got a little reverse pivot and stuff, and there actually is, you know, there's a counter step by the back, so there's a little timing in the backfield. These guys actually can, the ones that can really roll actually can get there. So unless they really just slam up the field, I have our guys go ahead and block them. We don't pass that guy up. Sometimes they'll just be able to feel it. That guy's so far out of the way. Your experienced guys can feel it, so I don't, you know, if they feel that, that's fine. But in general, we don't pass that guy up on a kick-out pull because, number one, he actually can make that play, and number two, I don't want this decision-making process where, all right, 1 yard, that's pretty good depth. 2 yards, that's a little too deep. 3 yards, all right, he's 3 yards deep in the backfield. I'm just going to pass him up. Like, where do you teach him? Where's the line for that guy? And I guess you could teach it, but the problem is if I want him to be pulling up into the line of scrimmage, you know, he's going to have to adjust his track on that guy. There's not a good way to teach this. You know, if he was pulling straight down the line, I guess you could say, hey, if the guy's not there, pass him up. But we're not doing that. So a lot of times we are going to have to adjust because probably more often than not, these guys will run up the field on it, especially not as much on the trap. It happens on the trap, but they don't get as far up the field. Our concern here is on our counterplay, we kick out the defensive end, and you'll probably have some play where you kick out the defensive end. That defensive end, if he is good, he's going to bend down the line of scrimmage. And we teach our guys to block the best. But more often than not, they're high school players, and they don't necessarily use perfect technique, and they get up the field a lot of times. Ours do it too. Our defensive ends do the same thing. So we adjust there to the ones who aren't using good technique, but we teach to block the guys who are using proper technique. So that's a kick out pull, and it's simple to teach. And again, it's gaining ground up into the line of scrimmage. Concentrate more on the feet. The elbow, if all you worry about is throwing the elbow, you're going to end up with that guy pivoting. And you see the difference. If you watch where my shoulder starts, when I throw the elbow, I'm actually going backwards. I drop step my foot a little bit. To whereas if my focus is on my feet, not so much on the elbow, I'll get the elbow around into a sprint position. But if I focus on my feet, my shoulder is headed towards the play. Of course, if I was down in a stance, it'd be even more so. But if I just throw the elbow, I've lost ground on this. And now, yeah, I'm squared up to pull, but I'm not getting anywhere. My first step is gaining ground with that first step. I'm gaining ground both horizontally and vertically, getting up in the line a little bit with it. So focus on the feet, not so much on throwing the elbow. And then it's a sprint down the line of scrimmage. And very important, the aiming point is that upfield shoulder or that inside shoulder, near shoulder on that guy, that you want to make sure that you kick that and not the back shoulder where you're going to end up wrong shouldering back into the play. That's the kick out pull. A lot of detail in it, but really the keys are in that first step and in the aiming point.